Hello everyone, and welcome to Gooey's Dungeon Dive, the podcast where I, Gooey, rank all of the dungeons in the Legend of Zelda series, and this week in Oracle of Seasons, we have to bomb our way to the final season Spirit of Autumn to reach our next dungeon, Unicorn's Cave. And this thing is definitely a unicorn. Look at that. Are there any unicorns in Zelda? I'm pretty sure the animated series has one. Anyway, this dungeon is overall pretty solid, though less noteworthy and exciting as the last, I feel like. It's got a nice bit of non-linearity once again, and in terms of key collecting and usage, it's, again, a nice incremental step up from the last dungeon. Peppered throughout the initial explorable area and behind some locked doors are spots that are gated due to needing the dungeon item. That creates some of that classic backtracking once we get the item. There's also a nice shortcut that makes getting back from or to some of the areas a little bit easier, so that's cool. The mine carts also return, and I feel like they are less exciting here. They're still pretty cool and make for some pretty solid exploration, like the way these rooms here all weave together, but also not having to like shoot any of the switches or any single track forking too crazily. It kind of feels like a slight step down in the gameplay, and in general excitement factor is a little bit lower. One disappointment related to that is you don't really have to use the slingshot at all. From what I understand, it's possible to complete this dungeon before Dancing Dragon Dungeon, and I'm not sure if that's why the slingshot isn't used or not, or if that's just a coincidence, but it does kind of hamper things regardless. So far, what's been kind of exciting in this game is getting a bunch of use out of the previous items and combined use of them. Here, I don't think it really has that much exciting gameplay until you get the dungeon item, which is the magnetic gloves. These things are pretty cool, and they allow for pushing and pulling heavy metal objects, pulling us over gaps and pushing us across gaps, and also some pretty fun application in the side-scrolling segments for some kind of platforming usage. It also gets some use against some enemies. Pulling off the helmets of the one guys are pretty cool. It's cool to see them return. But also, well, there's these other Magnesis whatever dudes. I don't know what they are. These weird magnet guys. Killing them is actually really annoying. So, knock against it, I guess. This really is a pretty satisfying item to use for the most part, though, despite making such an awful noise when you use it. That in combination with the dungeon theme, it's kind of not a good audio experience, but it really does account for a majority of the fun gameplay in this dungeon. Though the like tiger mini boss guy you fight without using that at all is actually a lot of fun, I would say. But the ultimate application of the magnetic gloves in this dungeon comes when we take on the final boss, Digdogger. Another legend returns. This dude is pretty fun, as you have to use the gloves to push and pull the spike ball back and forth and use it as a weapon to kind of smash it into him. Eventually it'll cause him to split up, and these little doggers will have to run around, and you can either squish them with the ball or they can be taken out with the sword, and I kind of love it. It's a little annoying, honestly, but you know, there's shades of this that come back a little bit in Wind Waker too, I feel like. But overall, the feeling of pushing and pulling the ball back is pretty fun. And of course, our final reward is the next essence of nature, the nurturing warmth. Balmy days build strong saplings with their nurturing warmth. All right, so that was kind of a quick one there. It's kind of interesting. It's a fun dungeon to play for the most part. Once, you know, I always love the lock and key exploration, and then the magnetic gloves, a lot of fun. Though, yeah, it just maybe coming off of Dancing Dragon, it's a little less exciting, a little less remarkable. The unicorn vibe is cool, I guess, but it doesn't really, you know, come into the dungeon at all. But I would say this is still a pretty solid dungeon, you know, a little bit more difficult than the last. If I'm ranking just the season's dungeons, which I got my little list right here. If I'm ranking them, it cannot reach the heights of Dancing Dragon Dungeon, but I think overall, with the I think the magnetic gloves gameplay really sells it, and just, you know, slightly more complicated exploration overall. And I do love the minecarts, even though it's not as cool as the last one. And yeah, just a solid layout and everything. So I will put it below this, kind of a bit below Dancing Dragon Dungeon. And it's definitely, I like it more than Poison Moth's Lair. So cool mini boss, cool boss. Kind of, it's a nice little package, but it's not, you know, a lot of the issues here is that it's for some of this, I feel like it's not even necessarily a lot better or worse than maybe like some Link's Awakening ones I've talked about. Maybe even a lot more fun from some of the gameplay design elements, but it's just a little less remarkable. I feel like it's not pushing the needle forward too much necessarily, but it still is just a solid go-to and a lot of fun. So pulling up the overall ranking, I've got to commit to having it somewhere between number 11 and number 27. And you know what? I have a spot for it, I would say. I like it more than these A Link to the Past dungeons, for example. They're all pretty cool, but you know, they have some things that hold it back for me. Yeah, it's definitely better than Tail Cave, and it reminds me of Face Shrine in that it's a nice big kind of later period dungeon, but a little flawed. But it's definitely a lot more fun than Face Shrine. I'm not sure that I'm ready to go higher than that yet. I don't think I want to bump any of these out of the top 20 just yet. Certainly there's a little bit more going on here than in Hyrule Castle and Angler's Tunnel. Those are really solid packages to me, though. Yeah, I think overall this one kind of fails to like fully nail the mark, but it's still, like I said, we're in a really solid territory just of really fun dungeon design and everything. So there's room to grow. It's a bummer it had to drop below Dancing Dragon. I was really hoping to see just like the next couple knock it out of the park, but I really think it's the next two that I really like. So we'll have to see about that. But anyway, until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye.